back again, ready to go. And then down goes the flag and you run. Nothing is really right, watching them moving by, doing it again all the time. Daytime, nighttime, anytime is the right time. Moving fast now, moving along, you gotta be fast on the fly. You do it once, you do it twice, you do it all because it's really nice. You do it wrong, you do it right, but nothing matters when you're on the right.
So, this is in no way, shape or form, this is not in ShawScope.
Definitely not in ShawScope.
No.
Absolutely, unequivocally not.
Not an iota of ShawScope is in this podcast.
No.
It is. It is
what
worth
is
mentioning.
ShawScope? I've never even heard of it. What are you talking about?
No, this is PONTIANAK Vision.
Right.
This is.
So this is a bonus.
It's worth noting. It's worth noting that Clive is a man who doesn't believe that anything can be spread too thin,
including human beings.
Yes. Right. I don't know what that means, but anyway, this is a bonus spin-off from our extremely popular award-winning
magazine featured
podcast.
No, this isn't featured in because we don't know what it is.
No. But if it were, if we did know, it would be. Right.
Yes.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Not at all.
This podcast will not appear in any issues of Eastern Heroes ever.
No.
Unless
because it's not in ShawScope.
But
what is ShawScope?
I don't know. Hang on now. We're getting a bit.
I think it involves a fishbowl lens of some kind.
We might want to.
No, it doesn't, because that's Shaw Brothers.
Oh, there we go.
So this is not a bonus. I've never heard of it. What? Speaking of spreading things thin, jokes as well are also up for grabs. So this is a bonus. Is not a bonus podcast spin-off from another podcast which we've never heard of. But if we had, it might have been about PONTIANAKs. And here's some more PONTIANAKs and KUNTILANAKs, which if you have heard the other podcast, which I don't know anything about, are variations on the same Southeast Asian vampire myth, which, as we'll get into it across these films, is all over the fucking place and no one seems to know. But the broad strokes are, if it's PONTIANAK, then it's Malaysia. If it's KUNTILANAK, then it's Indonesia, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So, if you wanna know the difference between the various different ghosties and ghoulies in this tradition that we don't know about, then don't listen to the ShawScope podcast, which we don't know exists.
No.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's clear.
I think so.
So
Crystal.
We're talking. Well, some of us will be talking, some of us won't, because we didn't all see this. So again, not only do we not know what we're talking about, and we're not talking about it anyway, and we've never heard of it, we haven't even all seen the films. But
yes. Clive sent us 75 films about PONTIANAKs, and Darren and I have watched 2.
Yes.
And Clive will fill you in on the other 73.
Yeah, luckily enough, it was the same 2. So
yes,
that
thank God.
Fortunate.
So the films are well. So basically, we wanted to talk more about, because we were slightly confused about the whole PONTIANAK thing, and we wanted a bit more context, and we wanted to see some more PONTIANAK stuff, and let's check out some KUNTILANAK. Unfortunately, there isn't great access, and also, to be honest, it doesn't necessarily seem as if PONTIANAKs or KUNTILANAKs set the cinematic world on fire until the past like 20 years or something. So there's a lot of Pontianak, Kuntilanak stuff in the last 20 years, but we're not really interested in that stuff. We're kind of interested in stuff with a bit more vintage, but we couldn't really find anything of vintage other than the 1975 film Pontianak, which we did all watch, right?
Yes. So
we'll talk about this, and then there's some shit films from more recently. It's basically how it breaks down. So,
and as people who sound a lot like us talked about before, you know, there are some earlier Pontianak films, many of which got thrown into a well, sadly, and are no longer extant.
One of them did, yeah. So there were, as some other people who I've never heard of spoke earlier. Fucking hell, I'm milking this. There were some Pontianak. There was an early Pontianak cycle, and there was kind of dribs and drabs. And again, there might have been more, but they're certainly not extant now, and they don't seem to have been recorded. That you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there are more out there. But basically, there wasn't that much going on in this subgenre, I guess you'd call it. So this seems to be the big. This seems to be the big Pontianak title in the latter half of the 20th century. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so it was a big craze in the 50s and 60s in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's Pontianaks everywhere, which is a supernatural ghosty that was put in films. And there's loads of it about in the 50s and 60s, and then there was fuck all. And then in 1975, there was another film.
An Australian, right? Roger Sutton.
Yeah.
Decides to make a movie.
Is he Australian?
Yeah, I think so. In Malaysia.
Where did you get that from?
I don't know.
Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
I think you'll find it, Clive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not too far away from where you
Just
are.
down the road. Yeah.
That's the one. Neighbouring Southern Hemisphere.
Again, private joke that means nothing to anyone else. So you can't remember where you got that piece of information about him being Australian?
I read a fairly lengthy and quite good review actually of this movie, although it's written by somebody who, like us, doesn't speak Malaysian.
Is this the one, the Brain Eater?
Yes, the Brain Eater, and I think it was in that review where they mentioned that he
mentions a lot of things, and I don't know what his source is. So he also mentions that this is a Malaysian, Indonesian, Japanese, Chinese, Thai, Philippine co-production.
That doesn't make a lot of sense, really.
I'm not sure where he gets that from. Although I did notice in the opening credits, so this does seem to be a co-production between Hamid Bond, who's in it, Hamid Bond's company, and the Kobe Trading Company. And obviously Kobe is in Japan. So at first I was like, what? Oh, what? Kobe Trading Company? But I don't know if this actually means that this is actually a Japanese trading company who put money into this, or someone just named their trading company Kobe because Kobe is a recognizable kind of port name, right? So
we're talking about the Japan that's in the northern hemisphere, or the other one?
No, it's the southern one.
Lads,
southern hemisphere one.
Do I have to mention this again? No one knows what you're talking about. This is meaningless. I should also explain that both. It's early in the morning.
Get a globe, Nick.
And Darren and Nick are on the sauce, so I have to rein them in every now and again. Back to the film, lads.
Okay. Yes. Pontianak, 1975.
Yes.
A possible Australian.
Credited to someone called Roger Sutton, but I don't know if this could be a pseudonym.
Okay, right. You think this might be a...
If we're to jump forward as well to the Pontianak films from more recently, they were directed... the Kuntilanak films, they're directed by someone who goes by the pseudonym Ian Jacobs. But his real name is Nayoto Fialanuala. So I'm wondering if this is a bit like the,
this is a Humbert Humphrey.
This is Italians making westerns under the like Dave Tough or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
But
okay.
having said that, and we're going to get to it, I'm sure, there does seem to be a very European influence in the 1975 PONTIANAK film, which we'll get to. But there's something in there that I've latched onto that seems European.
Right. So we watched this without the benefit of subtitles, and it's a relatively shitty VCD print, although it is in widescreen.
Yeah.
Which is good, I suppose. And but I mean, yes, I think I kind of get the story. What was interesting to me was how, well, anyway, we'll get. So, worth noting that this film starts on a very cheerful note as we are introduced to the Family Robinson Band.
Yes, yeah, I love this opening. In fact, I think I sent you a message after watching 5 minutes that was like, "This is going to be awesome. I'm loving this movie."
Yes,
sadly, I think it did not hold out through all 90 minutes. But
I disagree.
I think
all right.
The listener will have had a little snippet of the Family Robinson Band doing a Lindsay DePaul cover at the beginning, so they know what we're talking about.
Good, because it's a great song.
You do it twice. It's very. Is this the European influence that this is basically sounds like an Eurovision entry, doesn't it?
No, I'm talking about something totally different.
Okay, all right.
Okay. But I did love the opening sequence, and I absolutely loved the femme fatale PONTIANAK sipping her red Bloody Mary. I like that.
Biting her lip at the
that was good.
She was very sexy in that opening scene.
I was good.
As I said, I thought it almost had a kind of a Giallo-esque, like it had like a kind of feeling of that 70s Italian.
And it's also, there's this and again, I know fuck all about Malaysian cinema, but it seemed, because we watched other Malaysian films before that are very chaste, very, very, very reserved films in terms of sexuality and dress and all that stuff. But this seemed kind of sexy. This seemed kind of loose and,
In that first opening 5 minutes, I could have easily seen them cut away to George Hilton, like looking like simmering with a big pair of sunglasses on or whatever. Yeah. It definitely it didn't feel like Malaysia to me.
No, not at all. But, I was watching the opening sequence. I was tapping my foot to the music. Yeah. But I was thinking about Little Man on the drums. My heart is still with Little Man on the drums.
Yes.
Please refer to earlier podcast that doesn't exist for information.
So
nice shot at the beginning too of like the somebody framed through the tambourine. It was like a nice party kind of like, again, Dario Argento-y kind of like.
Just realizing
this is what I'm getting at.
Looking at my notes here, I realized I saw this a week ago, and I kind of can't remember what happened in this film. But so there is this the PONTIANAK, and this does speak. So this speaks to what we established before, is that the PONTIANAK is actually the offspring of something else whose name escapes me, but some kind of vampire. So PONTIANAK is specifically the daughter or the son of this other thing, which is called something else, right? And this follows that. Some of the other films don't. But so this seems to be, and is that her mother, I guess, who's floating about, calling her into the woods, and that's the mother, right? That's the.
I thought that was the sister. That's what I thought. But you're probably right, actually.
I thought it was the mother. She looks younger than the daughter who shows up in the but I assumed it was mom.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
So this is also, yeah, so we said one of the companies is the Hamid Bond, and Hamid Bond and Arleng, who are the stars of this film, weirdly enough, are a comedy duo. And
yes.
they play comic relief, I mean, I use the term loosely, comic relief doctors.
Yeah.
And yeah, so at a certain point, the film kind of restarts, doesn't it? Because there's a lot of Pontianak seducing people stuff.
Yeah, the opening, there's some good stuff
then,
like
and bollocks with these two allegedly funny men drawing like noughts and crosses on a fat man's stomach, and insisting another man eat a mouse.
I quite like that bit though. Well, I quite like that a doctor. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So
yes, because at the beginning of the movie opens with the seduction scenes, right, of her seducing various victims.
Well, actually, the opening sequence is quite atmospheric, much like
you're right.
the earlier film that we got. So it's kind of thunder and lightning, and then like tree roots. Tree roots and also a grave.
The very
crawled out of the grave
is cool. Yes, and you don't. I quite like that. At first, you don't quite know what's going on until the camera kind of pulls back a little bit, and it's established. At first, you're like, "What's going on here?" And then, okay, and that's and then the Family Robinson band kick in, and these two things combined, I admit as well, I thought, might be in for a hit with this one. Which
we're in business.
Which I kind of didn't play out all the way through for me, but at least. But no, what I wanted to say is, so you've got that stuff established, and her seducing people while cat meow on the soundtrack. I also like the fact that whenever she's got her fangs in, and she speaks, her mouth doesn't move, because I guess she can't really move her mouth with the fangs.
I'm cool with that though. I like that. I like the fact that you've got a ghostie whose lips don't move when she speaks. I'm cool with that.
I tell you what I like is I like a random insert of Bugs Bunny for no reason.
Yes,
me too.
Yes,
that's always.
I think that was to kind of signify we're into comedy territory. Is what I took that as, like, we're into Looney Tunes now.
But they don't do it like every time they cut to the doctor's office as a insert Elmer Fudd or something, or
Yeah, but also it's the same sort of cutaway when you have a sex scene. They just look at the portrait immediately above them.
Right.
So Bunny. Yeah, but instead of Bugs Bunny, it's like an abstract thing.
Yeah. Well, you do wonder as well if it was just wherever they were filming, there happened to be, as opposed to someone wrote in the script, cut to Bugs Bunny insert.
Yeah.
Like it seems very specific.
Well, the suspicion is that the film might have been a bit short for feature length.
Right.
And there's a bit of filler.
Padding.
Yeah.
Yes, but the film kind of, so these things are going on and it is part of the narrative, but the film kind of restarts when either Hamid Bond or Arleng dies, right? Gets killed.
It's Arleng.
Right, okay. And then the other one gets sorry. So it's Arleng gets married to the Pontianak, right?
Yes.
And there's a bit of kind of it is very chaste at this, the whole honeymoon stuff though, right?
Yeah.
And he puts on some inappropriate music, I thought, for when he puts the radio on. It's not like selective Barry White stuff. Dude, turn the radio off. You're killing the mood. But
because later on, because she actually swats the radio as well. She swats it and turns it off.
Yeah. So the Pontianak has her wicked way with Arleng, so that then the film kind of gets serious, right? And Hamid.
Well, that fascinated me. That's like you've cast Laurel and Hardy as your semi-leads, and then you kill Laurel, and then Hardy has to really
Hardy becomes
up.
Yeah.
Well, until the end, when he starts pulling shapes and falls over.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting about this, the scene, the funeral scene as well. So at first I thought this is, and this is something Brain Eater review mentions as well, is he's heard this film spoken of as a parody, but he thinks it's not a parody. It's a mix, it's the mix of.
Yeah.
But I thought so as well. I thought, no, it's just a straight up like a horror film, but with comic relief. But when the funeral scene plays out and he's bawling his eyes out and stuff, I got the sense I couldn't quite figure out, is this just not well done? Or is this actually supposed to be, so maybe it is parody.
It was hard. I also agree. I found it very hard to parse if that was just bad over the top acting. That was,
or if they were making fun of this,
or if it was actually supposed to be funny.
Trope. Yeah.
Because this bloke's wailing, isn't he?
Yeah,
Everyone else is kind of going,
yes.
hoo, 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 and he's going, wow, wow,
Right.
isn't he?
Yeah. So then it turns into the Pontiac hunters, and also there's another cute young woman character who's been kidnapped by. So there seems to be a coven of witches in league.
Yes,
the
witch vampires or some kind of
because there's only one. Yeah, because I was trying to work that out because the leader of the coven is kind of pale, isn't she? She's got this mad hair,
right?
Yes.
She's really pale. So I thought, actually, this is like a gang of Pontianaks.
Yeah.
But actually, I think you're right. I think it probably was like a coven of witches that is worshipping or using.
And all the paintings on their wall are at a bit of an angle.
Yeah.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Someone's off kilter.
Well, they've also got a fucking fire in the middle of the room as well. So
yes,
that's going to be a red flag.
So they kidnap the cute young woman, and I guess they try and do something to her. I'm not quite sure, but she's got a mini Quran about her person, which works as a crucifix, I guess. So she's all right. Yes, and so this is confuses towards the end of the film. As this plays out, they established you have to put a nail in the Pontiac's head, right? And this as in a,
which is consistent with what we know about.
Well, it's not though, right? Because we argued about this before. Because in the whatever the fucking film was called, the mother of the Pontianak had a nail in the back of her neck, but it was a fingernail, not a nail. It was a fingernail.
Right.
And then, because I remember we had a bit of a back and forth about, they meant a nail like that, not a nail. But in this, it's a nail. And then if you think about all those black magic films, the Shaw Brothers films and stuff, and all, all those things, they have zombies with nails in the top of their head as well. And I'm guessing that comes a lot from Southeast Asian folklore. So I'm a bit confused because that's definitely not a nail in the back of her neck in the other film. That is a fingernail, I think.
Yeah, but I think the thing is though, is it's cinematic, isn't it? So it's cinematic to have a big 6-inch masonry nail made up.
I agree with you. I like a nail in the head as much as the next one, but it's just it's and I suppose this is in isolation.
Wait, sorry. I'm just realizing. Does that mean that Clive Barker's pinhead could?
Well, you'd have to look at his neck at the back.
Okay. Yes.
So
right. Okay. Yeah.
Well, obviously, Pinhead's so powerful. They had to have a few goes.
or they just missed.
Right.
They didn't know where to put. They didn't know where to put the nail. And they never got it, which is why he's on the loose.
Right. So that aside, in isolation that would, but it's just interesting when you get into some of the other films as well, and there's no mention of fingernails and not even mentions of Pontianaks being offspring of.
Yeah, most of the stuff that we looked at from the kind of the more 2000s and 2010s was all it was all those big.
Yeah, so I'm kind of interested.
Proper carpentry nails,
And again, this might just be in English. It's a coincidence, nail, but in in Malay or in know, or whatever. So it's just that they're both parts of the folklore, and one does this bit, one does that bit, some do all of it, and only in English does the nail thing become a coincidence, right? So that could be it as well. But it is confusing first slot when we're doing this in English, and a nail becomes a nail, or is it a nail or anyway? So.
Well, it's at the end of the day, though, it's just a device, isn't it? It's just it's a MacGuffin, really. Isn't it? It's just a meme. It's like holy water versus a crucifix versus. It's like Dracula, isn't it? It's like Dracula in the Hammer films. How do you kill Dracula in the Hammer films? You impale him on a gold fucking cross, and then pray over him, and then in another film you drown him, and then in another film it's a stake through the heart. Another film is sunlight. So at the end of the day, it's just, how do you kill the monster? Well, in this film, you kill the monster like this.
Or in the Sesame Street version, you steal all his fruit. So he dies of boredom, because he doesn't in the count.
No, you're referring back to another podcast we're not meant to have heard of.
Yes, that's right. So, you heard that, did you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for listening. So, yes. So, what did we make of PONTIANAK 1975, which may or may not have been directed by an Australian and be a co-production between all the countries in the world, or not, and whatever the fuck is going on might be a parody and isn't. I mean, it's a very I would very much like to see this film with subtitles, because I would like to know what's going on. But what was our instincts on this one? Is this worth a watch?
Without subtitles, that's hard to say. I would have liked it. There's isolated moments that were really interesting to me. Like even just like this little, like at the very beginning of the movie when we first cut to Hamid and Alang's, like whatever it is, their little clinic that they've got running, and a dude comes out wearing a fez with a huge 4-liter jug of what appears to be his own blood.
Or fruit juice, I'm not sure.
Or fruit, maybe. I was like, what? And yes, and then we got the guy who goes in, who is, prescribed a dose of live mice to eat. And then we have Alang eat one of them, and then it maybe talks to him from his stomach. Like there's just all this weirdness. And then the things I loved, like there was almost a goblin-esque pieces of the score, like more like prog rocky. And then we had pieces of the score that could have come from a 1920s silent movie comedy, like Rinky Dink.
It was
all over the place.
And of course, the Family Robinson Band, let us not forget.
Well, they were great.
You do it once, you do it twice. It is very catchy. It's not my kind of thing, but it is. You can't help yourself.
It's of the period, at least, isn't it? It's a nice little snapshot.
Yeah. I was expecting, as soon as they finished, I thought it would be like, Finland, 8 points,
But I almost got tonal whiplash as well, from like the comedy to then like, oh, there's a guy hanging in a tree that some kids have found who's like dead and has punctured neck, and the cops are there, and then back to total.
The thing with tonal whiplash though is it's addictive, isn't it? And what I found now after many years of watching things with jarring tonal whiplash is, if I now watch a film, like a Hollywood film, that doesn't give me tonal whiplash, I'm quite bored. Like, where's this is all of this is like well crafted and put together. What's this shit? This is boring.
How dare you have the same tone throughout the film?
Yeah.
How dare you not do a handbrake turn into comedy when someone's just been murdered?
Yeah, I want, a vicious rape scene followed by a pie in the face, comedy routine. That's
wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I've got their wedding march was a song that I completely associate. And I don't know what the song actually is, but they're driving along when Alang has got married to the PONTIANAK, sorry. And it's to me, it's the Hitler He only had one ball.
Right.
That's the one.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sure that piece of music has pre-exists
Yes.
Hitler. He only had one ball.
That's Colonel Bogey's match, isn't it?
Is that what it is? Yeah, I don't know.
I think so. Isn't that Bridge of the River Kwai as well, isn't it?
Goebbels had two, but very small. Himmler was something similar.
Are we on your small cock talk again?
Yes, yes. And poor old Goebbels had no balls at all. But yeah, so anyway, that was exciting for me to hear that. That was I don't know why that was being sung in Ireland in the 1980s. That seems like a very...
No, it was also very much the case in Wales. So yeah,
okay. We kept that alive.
Yeah, that's my frame of reference too.
Because the other one is in the Albert Hall, as we all know. Anyway, you were saying whether you enjoyed this film or not. I think
I don't know.
I don't know either. Darren, can you shed any light on this?
Right, I have got a definite opinion about this film.
Right, okay. I'm glad one of us does.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Okay. Explain.
So there are some caveats in this. There are some caveats in this, right?
Right.
Okay.
Because we have watched a number of PONTIANAK films together, or apart, and then discussed it together. And I was looking for a spooky PONTIANAK film, because that's what I thought it was. That's what I thought the PONTIANAK was. I thought it was a spooky thing. And this film, in part, delivered on spooky PONTIANAK.
Right.
And that's where that's kind of where I'm coming from with the European vibe.
Right.
So there's Italian, even French Jean Rollin kind of stuff going on when you've got the seductress PONTIANAK, and when the sexy dark-haired lady transforms into the scary white lady with the really shit fucking fangs that are obviously bought from Tesco's down the road, it's a little bit jarring. And the attacks when she kind of just jumps on people.
Yeah.
She
and your cat noises.
Yes. I didn't mind the cat noises.
Cat noises I can get behind. I can get behind that. But what I can't get behind is this actress just kind of having some quite nice shots of her just looking kind of blank and kind of straight ahead and spooky. And then all of a sudden she's kind of just flailing around, or almost like someone's just pushed her into someone else, and she's just like kind of aimlessly trying to look like she's biting someone's neck or something. But this was the film I was looking for, right? With the PONTIANAK, I wanted a spooky film about a white-haired ghost lady who killed people, and it was a bit scary. And it doesn't succeed entirely. So, and I can, the comic relief aside, I'm buying the comic relief. I even like the mouse business. I didn't quite like the noughts and crosses business. I thought that was a bit shit. But I quite liked the mouse business. And even the tonal shift when, one of them just dies, is killed. But
they buried in a hot pink suit. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen anybody at a funeral wearing a pink suit before. But Alang.
Yeah. So the tone was all over the place. But when the tone was spooky, it was sometimes spooky. And I think that probably that was a failing with the actress, actually.
Yes.
I think that they hired someone. Flat. Yeah. So they hired someone statuesque who couldn't fucking act.
Yeah.
So she looked the part, but she couldn't act the part.
She does seem a bit out of her depth, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So if the actress had charisma and had bare bones of acting talent, I think it could actually have worked as a scary film. The direction really fell down when it came to the actual murders, which is important. But the atmospheric stuff in between the murders and in between the comedy, I thought worked really well. So you've got, her kind of whizzing about the place, and there's lots of little bits in this that do kind of work, where it's, someone goes out for a cigarette, on the porch, or, in a bar or something, and, the sexy lady is sitting next to them on the left.
Yes.
And then they take a drag of the cigarette, and then all of a sudden she's on the right instead of the left. And it's kind of a bit weird and spooky.
Some of that's good and disorientating, but then some of it is just, you wonder why they bothered, right? There's other, because they overdo it a bit. Like, they could have been a bit more sparing, I think, with that stuff. Like, they overdo it a bit, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But there's something in there. There's something in there, and this is where I'm coming from with the kind of European vibe or influence. That is just the music, the kind of vaguely kind of psychedelic organ music that's playing some of the time, not all of the time, when it's a spooky scene, and it's kind of, some of it's a little bit kind of, there's some nice kind of lingering shots that are, quite, what's the word I'm looking for? That are, they're quite kind of, just lingering and kind of atmospheric.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of it works. It doesn't work as a film really, but there are little hints in there that tell you that spooky Pontianak, scary Pontianak, can work.
Right.
And
I would be happy to watch it again with the benefit of subtitles, I have to say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider it a chore to sit through it again. I'd like to know what's going on. I'd like to know what those witches have to do with the Pontianak.
Yeah, me too. Because that lead witch, she almost had vibes of Troll 2. That, I don't know who she was, that actor in Troll 2 that just goes OTT, like she ramps everything up to 11. But I also loved the scene where she comes in and finds the pregnant lady, because I thought that was surprisingly grim in some ways, and also surprisingly kind of like, they show her full pregnant belly and her kind of like rubbing her belly button, and it was all kind of sexual in a way that, again, a movie made in Malaysia you don't expect to see. And then she rakes the stomach open. I was like, holy crap, that's full on for this time period, for for this country.
Yeah, and you've got gaping wounds as well. That's the other thing, isn't it? Is that it's, after someone's attacked, there's got to be probably 5 or 6 attacks in this, 5 or 6 murders in this. You're seeing, like, the kind of puncture wounds, but they're like gaping wounds with blood, and she's dripping blood out of her mouth sometimes. And it's kind of, from what we saw earlier, 20 years earlier in Malaysia, it's not something you necessarily expect from that filmmaking culture.
And we do get the multifaceted Pontianak as well. We do get not just the, like, we get the more hag-like version as well, quite near the end, where she's I don't know if it's makeup or a mask or whatever, where the eye is kind of bulging out, and which reminded me more of the earlier Pontianak movies that we had seen.
Yeah, I kind of took that to be like, that's her kind of rotting state. Do you know what I mean? So that's like what that's what I took from it anyway. But like her, because she's in white, she's always in white, and she's got white hair. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the nail's in her head, she's got brown dress and brown hair, isn't she? So it's like she's kind of almost like, as she would be in the grave or something, That's how I interpreted that.
So it seems as if we're all kind of advocating for maybe, sticking a pin in this for now. It has promise, and, let's hope that maybe someone gets a decent quality version of this out there. Even better with subtitles, and maybe we'll return to I think the jury is still out a little bit, right? Because we don't really know what's going on, and we're not really seeing it properly. But it seems it's certainly not a total disaster, and it's not boring, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So now me and oh no, hang on, you didn't. You only saw the other Pontianak, the Revenge of the Pontianak, right?
The only other one it's is it PAKU Pontianak?
Oh, you did see Pontianak.
Yeah. So that's and it's funny because I noticed.
So let's talk PAKU Pontianak then.
One weird piece of connective tissue here is that they both feature a female lead called Malati, because
I think the Malati, I think the Malati thing, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that might be part of the Pontianak, like whatever the Bram Stoker version of the Pontianak thing that serves as literary ground zero. I think the character of Melati is, like the Lucy Harker or whatever of. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think somewhere out there there's probably a Pontianak novel, which is the go-to for a lot of the cinematic versions. And
I don't think there's such a character as Lucy Harker. I think it's Mina, to be pedantic.
There is a Lucy as well, is there?
There's a Lucy in there too, yes.
But she's not a Harker.
But she's not a Harker, no. I'm pretty sure it's Mina. But yeah, I wondered if, because in the 75 Pontianak, Malati is the daughter of the Pontianak. The one with the mini Quran. Yeah, the one who basically, and who is kind of the girlfriend.
That's where the confusion comes in. Who's a Pontianak and who's the mother of a Pontianak? And
I just realized, I love the fact that we just talked about the 75 one without ever mentioning who is, I guess, the nominal main character. The guy who's not either the two comedy sidekicks, the guy and his girlfriend, who turns out to be the daughter of a Pontianak.
That's because he's boring as fuck.
I was going to say, he was so lacking in screen character and charisma that, we didn't.
Plus, as well, I think if you didn't look it up, you'd assume, he must be Hamid Bond, right?
Yes.
And Arleng is the girl, right? And then you kind of, no, hang on, they're Laura Leonardi or Abbott and Costello meet the Pontianak, right? But anyway, PAKU Pontianak, 2013, Malaysian film. Darren, you didn't see this, did
you? Hang on.
I think Darren might have, because he mentioned.
Yeah, so I've seen 2013, but I didn't actually, because I was a little bit rushed. I didn't actually make a note of the title.
Okay, but basically, did it have a man with a giant goiter in it?
Yes, it did. So I saw that.
Then PAKU Pontianak. Yes.
Yeah.
So this plays out again very much. It's a similar story about someone who comes to realize that they are the daughter of Pontianak. It's basically a woman with amnesia, Ukasha Senrose, who is Melati in this. And so a bloke, Pekin Ibrahim, who I think is a potter, he's got a very nice house in the woods. I like his house. And he knocks it down.
Nice pots as well. I would quite like one of his little pots.
I'd buy one of his pots, I don't know if he can live.
My wife actually, so Jen and I watched this together tonight, and she was taken with all of the ladies' tops. She was like, "Oh, that's a beautiful top," or that's a fantastic shirt. And she was bummed out by that guy, main character's Canadian-looking flannel, like he just got off stage with Pearl Jam. She was like, "Why is he always wearing those crappy flannel shirts?" And that
he's a bit lazy, isn't he? He's a bit of a slob, really.
Yeah, and when he finally takes off the flannel shirt, he's got flannel
pajamas,
pajama pants on.
Funny enough, my wife and I watched it together tonight as well.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah. She enjoyed, which is good.
Yeah, so did Jen, but
that's a good yardstick.
She was just yeah. If your wife can get into the Pontianak, then yeah.
I didn't like the scene when he just bought tickets for the Mother Love Bone reunion tour.
Yes, that was weird,
incongruous.
But funny enough, he totally looked like he could have fit in on the reserve that I lived on. Like there was something very Indigenous Canadian looking about that fact with his flannel shirt and his cap and his jeans. I was like, oh yeah, he totally looks like a specific guy from the community I lived in.
So anyway, so he knocks this woman over with his car, takes her home rather than to a hospital, knocks her out as well. It seems to be he's on some kind of stretch of abandoned road that no one goes to, apparently.
Yeah.
The locals don't go to.
Is it worth mentioning the opening scene, which is set clearly several years or 50 years before, or whatever it is, where a guy is hunting a Pontianak in a forest?
I forget.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
the
so
movie opens.
It does. It opens. That's how it opens. It's kind of a spooky scene in the forest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite good. Yeah. It's a guy with a kind of a fez, older gentleman hunting a Pontianak, and he
with
does
a bottle of holy water.
Yes, which he pours on the nail, and then he kind of accidentally doesn't quite get it where it needs to go, and then on the second chance, but he gets wounded, I guess, while trying to get it in, and then he does manage to get it in her neck. And
it's quite a cool scene, actually, because he's trying to kind of get it in. It seems like he's trying to kind of get it in her head, like in her forehead or something, and then he almost like lets her kind of attack him, and then finally he has the reach to get it in the back of her neck where it's meant to go.
She's floating through the forest as well, in that story in a way, right?
Yeah.
It's a cool opening.
Yeah, it's the best bit of the film, I think. I mean, it might be. It'll be interesting actually, because I don't know what either of yours opinion, but you said that both of your other halves enjoyed this film, and I ultimately didn't in the end. So I don't know where you can. I was expecting. So let me get the plot out the way. And we'll get to it. So and he takes her home, and the family looks after her, and of course they eventually fall in love, and then there's a spurned lover who I think goes to like a witch doctor to try and put some kind of curse on her, but it turns out that she is the best
crazy eyes. Like her, like again, my wife was particularly taken with her crazy eyes, like psychotic, burning hatred for this interloper, this woman who's come in and stolen her man.
Right, but it turns out. She is a Pontianak, or a daughter of Pontianak. Well, she's the daughter of the floating through the forest hag, and our Van Helsing has a massive goiter,
almost bigger than his actual head.
Yeah, it's quite. It's really I wasn't even sure if it was a goiter at first, because it's not coming out from where the
it's a nodular goiter. Right. My wife was so taken with it that she decided to Google this and figure out the specific, because it doesn't. You're right. It's not the big football swelling.
I've seen those before, but I haven't seen one on the side of the head. And it did.
Oh, that's interesting, because I was going to call Clive on his use of goiter, because I always associate goiter with the neck.
Yes,
But it is a goiter.
No, I looked it up. I looked up pictures of images of goiters, and sometimes they do go around the side there. Yeah, but
this is hanging off his cheek, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So it's apparently because it has these. It's not one big swelling; it's a series of swells. It's a nodular.
Swings and roundabouts, right? It's unsightly, some may seem, but on the other hand, you save a fortune on pillows.
Also, on that point, right? Just to put another kilogram on the 1 ton of fucking bigotry you just put on the scales there, Clive.
Right.
What I actually quite like about this film is that it's never mentioned.
No.
That's just an actor with that particular condition.
No one goes fuck or anything when they introduce.
Yeah. Nope. And if anything, when our Pontianak kind of recoils, she seems kind of a bitch, because but it seems like it maybe has nothing to do with his goiter, but more to do with the fact that he maybe has a sense of who she is or what she might be, So
I mean, you can make the argument that if you're disfigured in some way, then you have access to the spiritual world or something like that. But it's not overt in this film, and to my mind, it's just an actor with that particular condition.
And the only person who makes a comment or a crack about it is him, right? At one point, he talks about how pretty girls are always going to run away from him, and he makes a joke of it, right? So, and he's definitely the highlight he's the thing you remember
about the film. And so the way this plays out, so as I was watching this film, it became apparent early on that, oh, this isn't going to be a film of revelations, right? This isn't going to be, there's no surprises here, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I thought it would play out in, it reminded me a little bit, there's a, and if you remember a Thai film from about 20 years ago now, a ghost film called Nang Nak. I don't know if you ever saw it. And it was one of those, you know, man comes to slowly realize that he's fallen in love with a ghost. You know, there's lots of, I mean, even just here in Japan, there's so many different versions of me and Nick when we spoke before about Tales of Moonlight and Rain, right? There's a version in there. But there's, you know, a lot of these variations on man, you know, marries a ghost or whatever. And everyone knows the story, but in the case of, for instance, this very good film, Nang Nak, it's all about atmosphere, and it plays out, you know, in a very kind of, you know, okay, we're going to tell this tale, we're going to tell it with mood, and we're really, you know, and you know what's going to happen from the beginning, but you enjoy seeing the story play out. So I thought with this film, which is a very slow burn, I thought, oh, this might have that cumulative vibe. Like, nothing amazing is happening, nothing surprising is happening. But I'm oddly not bored. I'm kind of quite enjoying watching this. And I thought it would play like that and slowly peak, and then at the end, with no big reveal, it would just be, that was a satisfying story, well told. Okay, fine. But, and I can't really pinpoint where, somewhere past the halfway mark, I have to admit I was still into it, but somewhere past the halfway mark, it kind of lost me. Like, I started to lose interest. And then the way it plays out the end as well is very unsatisfying for me. It was just like, she's a PONTIANAK, you know. Oh, is that right? And then she has the PONTIANAK face. You better fuck off then. All right. And that's about it, really. I mean, it's, you know, it's like they don't really have a grasp on.
You know, I have to say, I didn't quite get this, because I was talking to Jen about this as the movie was going on, because at that point where basically she admits, you know, she says, like, I love you, you know, there's this moment where there's this whole thing where she seems to be this divided woman, and she seems to be in two places at once, but, you know, she kind of confesses, like, I truly love you, and if anything happens to me, I want you to know I truly love you. And then, you know, whatever his name is, the guy with the impressive goiter.
Oh no, sorry, yeah, go on.
Yeah, he shows up, and he's like, you know, check the back of her neck for the nail, and if you take it out, you're going to see what she is. I'm like, well, why take the nail out? It's like, it'd be like being told, like, yeah, if you tell your wife she's, you know, she's gained a few, she's going to be upset, so don't tell her that. Like, you know, like, he kind of, you know, this whole, he kind of, they try this intervention, the whole family has this intervention. He's like, leave me alone. I love this woman. I don't care. But then he has to go and pull the nail out, and I don't know. It was a weird. I was like, just leave the nail in. Live happily ever after. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah, there was. I mean, there was one thing. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Okay, you did.
You know, I enjoyed it in the same way as I enjoy, you know, a 5 million or a 10 million budget. What's the word? What's that production? A Blumhouse film.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I kind of, you know, if I saw that on Netflix, you know, then I would be entirely satisfied with it as an hour and a half to wheedle away on a Thursday night, you know. And I think it works completely well like that. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed the slow burn of it, you know. However, it kind of, for me, it kind of didn't know where its bread was buttered. So on the one hand, you've got a little bit of uncertainty as to, because there's lots of nightmares scenes.
Yes.
So
yes.
There's lots of stuff
waking up
in there. Exactly. So he's, you know, he's seen her in her makeup, you know, in her PONTIANAK makeup, and then he's waking up. and then he's seeing her in one place and then she's in another, and is it him hallucinating? So it's kind of, so on the one hand it's kind of it's trying to sort of get the, well, is the Pontianak real? Is it just his psychosis? You know,
Yeah,
and
he
then on
seemed,
the other
it's
hand,
funny,
there's
he
overt
read,
supernatural elements, you know.
I agree, he read as slightly mentally ill to me. That was something else my wife and I were both commenting on. Does he seem like, he seems so anxious and uncomfortable in his own skin and so constipated and so kind of hunched all of the time that we're like, is any of this really happening, or is he just struggling?
But
you know?
it's not done in such a way
You never buy it.
to make, no, you don't buy it, and,
No.
and because you've got that element in it, you don't quite buy the supernatural stuff either.
Yes,
but
yeah,
I did like the imagery. I really actually really like the special effects they used to make the Pontianak float in the woods.
Yep.
Really like that. I thought that was really effective. And I quite like the way that the director's not in a rush to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's
it
was
so
almost
it goes at his own pace, and there's no need for big scares and any of that stuff.
No,
it was almost a kitchen sink drama with this ghostly element. Like there was something very centered and real about it.
I would have liked all that if it had paid off. I think that's the thing. I don't have a problem with the approach. It's just they didn't, pun intended, nail it. So you know, it wasn't worth the journey for me. Like I didn't get enough out of it. But it's a if you like goiters, though. If you're programming a goiter film festival, this one's got to be in it, doesn't it?
I will say too that that character delivers the best line of the movie, which is the you know, your father nailed a Pontianak.
yeah. Pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I disagree with you, Clive. I actually felt it did pay off.
Okay.
It's a pretty average film.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's off the bat now. It's pretty average, but I quite like the emotional roller coaster that it sent you on. I say roller coaster. What I mean is roundabout. You know, kind of a lesser, kind of, you know, like a seesaw, maybe. You know, like a you know, not a roller coaster, but like, you know, one of those horses you used to ride in the playground.
I tell you what it is. It's one of those little things in front of chemists for children to sit in.
Yeah, that's it. One of them.
Like a little town.
Yeah, but what I did like was the obvious torture that the Pontianak is in. You know, they've really fleshed out that character. You know, there are some points in the film where, you know, you feel that actually she knows she's a Pontianak, but she's not sure she's a Pontianak, and maybe she's got a psychosis going on. But she's sad. She's just always sad. For some reason, you know, be it because she's Pontianak or because she's mentally ill. And I actually quite liked the moment right at the end, spoilers, right at the end when the nail comes out the head, where, you know, she's saying goodbye. You know, there's no big horror finale. It's just like, yeah, we were married, we were in love. You pulled the nail out of my head, and now I'm crying tears of blood.
Yep.
And then I know I'm going to float off into the woods. I actually I felt that ending actually paid off.
Okay.
Yeah, I
actually quite like that. Yeah.
Right. Still waiting, of course, as I mentioned off air, still waiting for the sex comedy PONTIANAK film, which I think has to be made if it hasn't already been made.
In Malaysia?
Well, Indonesia. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay then. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Get our money's worth. But of course, it would be they would have their own cunty word again, though, wouldn't they?
Well, it's KUNTILANAK as well, isn't it?
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that lends itself even more.
So I shall go on.
Okay, I was going to say there's a few moments. There's a great moment actually where what is his name? The guy I should feel like we should know we should say his name. Poor guy with the
Sela is his name.
Yeah. Where Sela phones up to be like, your wife's not a human. I'll explain later. Like when he's in the house with her and he's like, oh, okay.
He puts the phone down. And someone else is like, was that man with the goiter again? Yeah. Yeah, he's an odd one.
But I really like the sense of, as I do with movies that are set in places I haven't been, the really strong sense of place, right? Like the house on stilts, the jungle was like, it's its own character in the film. And then, yeah, like all the girls were pretty in their own ways. I was quite attracted to all of them. Crazy eyes, angry, jilted one, sad Pontianak, and super cute sister. Like giggly, sweet sister. Like I was like, woo, she is cute. Yeah, the men were all kind of more sad sacks, except for Sela, who was like an action goiter. But like, yeah, all the other guys were kind of like, you know,
get your action figures in stores now. New from Mattel. Action goiter.
He rode a motorbike. That guy rocked.
Action goiter.
We were doing so fucking well up until this point.
Apologies.
Hero with a goiter.
Got the power.
All right. Let's hope that that this offshoot podcast.
Teenage Mutant Goiter Man.
Apologies, deep apologies to anybody who has a family member or is has a goiter themselves. As you said, maybe watch this movie because you'll see that a leading man will not be mocked.
No, certainly not.
Within the confines of the movie for having a goiter.
Well, but it's not just a normal goiter, is it? It's worth mentioning.
It's impressive for sure.
I'll tell you, going back to your earlier point, Nick.
Yeah.
Rapidly getting away from this topic.
Yes, please.
Going back to your point about sense of place.
Mm-hmm.
Again, trying not to make this sound patronizing, but there's a real sense of family dynamic.
Yeah. In
the film as well, which is something you don't necessarily get in Western films. Certainly not of this era. Mm-hmm. Maybe the 40s and 50s. But you have this whole sense of everyone's just living in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the matriarch who's in charge, by the way. And then you've got the brother and the sister who are married, and you've got the new bride and the son, and it's a multi-generational household. And that situates it in place as well.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's a full house of Pontianak films.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So I know you didn't see any of the other films, so I'm going to rattle through them very quickly, because there's not much to be said anyway. So
I watched a few minutes of one or two of them, but
okay,
yes,
well you can chime in.
They seemed very Blair Witchy, paranormal, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Not good.
Sticking with Pontianaks, there's 2019's Revenge of the Pontianak, which is a much bigger budget and
that's the one on Netflix.
That's
right?
the one on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I don't know. You might get on with it better than me because you seem to have enjoyed PAKU Pontianak more than I did. But this one lost me very quickly. I think it's set in some early 20th century time period, 20s or 30s. It's never really spelled out. But yeah, it's more of the same. Someone coming to terms with, oh, I'm married a Pontianak story. I married a Pontianak from outer space, and it's for me it was so bland and tasteless. I struggled to have anything to say about it at all. I was hoping one of you might have taken a look at it so you could help me out, but it's just, again, not badly made, well put together technically. I'm just not interested in this. It's very post, Ring, Grudge, and Paranormal Activity, Blair Witchy, all that bollocks which most modern horror films seem to get trapped in, that mire, right? They don't seem to be able to extract themselves from these deep grooves that have been kind of dug into the genre now. And yeah, I watched it like 2 days ago. I remember nothing of this film at all.
Wow. Okay.
Can I make a point just on post Blair Witch, post well, any popular horror film in the last 20 years?
Right.
Please, Hollywood, if you're listening, please stop doing the shimmery, jittery camera thing that it looks like someone's under strobe lighting when there's a ghosty around. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, like the stop, jump cut kind of.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of that thing. It's come to really annoy me now. You get it a lot in trailers. Is that deep sub bass?
Wow.
Or a monster steps on something, or oh, for fuck's sake, I'm so sick of hearing that.
Yeah, but the jump cutty thing is far more annoying because as soon as I see that in a film now, that film's going off.
Yeah,
it's done.
Yeah,
it was done 10 years ago.
Yeah. Sorry, stop doing that. Put more people with goiters in instead, I think.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Give him a little jiggle.
Yeah, why not? Although that fella had seemed firm, like, didn't it?
Oh yes.
It seemed quite solid. Yeah. It was, I don't know if I didn't see much jiggling.
No, it seemed like a proper second head.
Yeah, like a monster or something like that.
Yep.
There we go. He'd be perfect if they're going to remake
Monster. Yep.
You have to CGI it out for the early scenes before he turns into the monster. They just draw a face on his goiter for
just get a Sharpie.
Yeah. Eyes and glasses like a Groucho look.
Yeah. Or flip it, and you've got Basket Case remake.
Right. Yes.
Edit out the man.
Right. Just have a floating goiter as Belial. So, anyway, so we're going over to
hell. I think that's where we're all going. I think we're definitely going to hell.
Going to Indonesia now for some Kuntilanak films, and I'll get to these were fucking hell, these were pretty bad.
Yeah, this is the one I tried one of those, and it was 2 minutes I think before I was like, nope.
Both from 2008, Kuntilanak, Beranak, and Sarang Kuntilanak, almost interchangeable really. Both directed by this same guy, Nyato Fio Aquala, as Ian Jacobs. Amazingly, seems to have directed 80 films since 2005.
Fucking hell.
Well, that makes sense, because if he's doing this found footage shot on videos, stuff, then yes, probably.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of other Kuntilanak films in his filmography as well, and pokongs and other spooky things like that. So these are more or less the same film, but in one, it's a bunch of young people go to a village which was the site of a massacre to make a documentary about it. And then in another one, they go to an old house, what happened in the old house? I did learn one thing, a Rongen group of dancers. Apparently Rongen were like, is it quite interesting, you with your cup before, Nick, and goiters, things we looked up. I looked up these Rongen dancers, and they seemed to be like traveling troops of dancers which were halfway between a performing dance troupe and lap dancing prostitutes. So you would go and see a show, and then after the show you could meet the ladies kind of thing. This seems to be. So it's kind of interesting. I didn't know about the Rongeng dancers. Yeah, and they go to a abandoned old house and make a film, and yeah, the whole Blair Witchy thing plays out, right? Yeah, and lots of shouting and shrieking, and yeah, very, very boring. Lots of extremely chaste, like, you know, they can't do proper like nudity or anything, so they have, you know, the girls, you know, often in underwear or, you know, that kind of thing. So there's not much in the way of, yeah, then they're not sexy, they're not gory, they're not scary. Both entirely interchangeable. I can't remember anything about them. Oh, one of them had a mong in.
Bonus.
Yeah, he was a very loud one as well, who went like when explaining things. So that was quite good. But he wasn't there for long. Yeah, that's about it. And there we go. That's good. Oh yeah, the one thing I did want to mention was watching these so-called Kuntilanak films. Now, I'm wondering if we might have, because we made the connection between the Pontianak and the Kuntilanak, I'm wondering if we might have, we might have missed something. Like, I'm not sure. I think the Pontianak is usually a Pontianak, but I think the Kuntilanak has maybe become a word that just means something spooky, because there was nothing Pontianak-y about the Kuntilanak films.
Well, we said the same, didn't we? Really, in the unmentioned podcast.
Yes,
the Pontianak in Malaysia in at least the 60s,
right,
became the same thing. It was just a shorthand for spooky time.
Yeah, but I think I just wanted to specifically, I mean, I might be wrong again, I might change my mind again, but just judging on what I watched for this, I'm now at the point where I'm thinking that's specifically Indonesian Kuntilanak more than it is Pontianak. Maybe Pontianak still means something, where Kuntilanak is maybe less. It's, it's become totally unmoored from its, its original meaning. And I think now it just means, something spooky is going to happen. But then again, who knows? There might, if we'd have watched another 5 Kuntilanak films, we might have actually found something akin to the Pontianak story.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, vampire increasingly throws a wide net as well. I mean, a lot of stuff falls. Yeah. It's a big tent, right?
And stuff changes in, because that's the thing I was wondering, because that's the other thing we assume, just because they're both alien to us, and we found this connection, Pontianak, Kuntilanak. But then again, it could be that from the, from one side of Malaysia to the other, that something was lost in translation as well there, like for instance here, Dracula and vampire in Japan are almost interchangeable. Something is referred to as a Dracula as opposed to, it's not specifically the Count, right? So I'm wondering if there's something there, like the migration from Pontianak over to Kuntilanak, maybe something there was kind of, I don't know. Again, we're working through this, right? We're trying to figure it out, and that's where we are at for now. Is that safe?
It's important work. It's important work we're doing for you, the listener.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're probably better than we are, because you're probably going to do more research and be more sensitive towards goiters.
Yes. Yes. Right. So are we gonna sing Teenage Mutant Goiter Man to one, two. All right. Nick will abstain. You ready, Darren?
Okay, so how does it go?
It goes Teenage Mutant Hero Goiter. Teenage Mutant. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Teenage Mutant
Hero Goiter. Teenage Mutant Hero Goiter.
Teenage
Teenage Mutant Hero Goiter.
Heroes with a goiter power.
Goiter power. Right.
Right, stop that now.
Yeah.
Track again, ready to go, and then down goes the flag and you run. Nothing is really right, watching them moving by, doing it 10 all the time. Daytime, nighttime, anytime is the right time. Moving fast now, moving along, you gotta be fast on the ground. You do it once, you do it twice, you do it all because it's really nice. You do it wrong, you do it right, but nothing matters when you're on the right. Getting the other guys, just getting near your eyes, trying to be number one. Just one more round to go, only my speed to show, soon as before it's begun. Daytime, nighttime, anytime is the right time. Moving fast now, moving along, you gotta be fast on the run. You do it once, you do it twice, you do it all because it's really nice. You do it wrong, you do it right, but nothing matters when you're wrong or right. Daytime, nighttime, anytime is the right time. Moving fast now, moving along, you gotta be fast on the run. You do it once, you do it twice,